En el verano de 2018, como parte de su visita, el Dr. Fred van Eenennaam, Cátedra Distinguida PIMSA de Erasmus Holanda, dirigió un taller con los alumnos de LNI Global Program en el Campus Internacional Ensenada.
I'm an international distinguished professor at CETIS, so that's a big honor for me. I'm Dutch. I work at a couple of universities there. My field is strategic management, corporate governance, and I do that at a couple of universities. Also, I have my own consulting firm, the Decision Group, and an institution called the Decision Institute. International strategic management is basically strategic management, but it acknowledges the fact that you cannot make a strategy today if you don't take into account the international effects. Even if you're purely local, somebody is gonna come in your market from an international perspective. Or you have such a good product or offer or position that it will be a waste not to sell it somewhere else. Or you can take advantage these days of the international internet approaches, and that makes it certainly international. So it's a little bit beyond what we used to say. It's international because there are cultural differences, there are legal differences, there are tax differences. That still is valid today, but the thinking is different. My suggestion is, if I think about a new product offer or a new service, would that survive in an international market? Otherwise, I'm opening up my business to internet approaches or to somebody doing a little bit of a better job. It's important to think about international management because the world is international. We would never have thought that Alibaba would be in everybody's business model. We'd never have thought that we worried about who's going to Uber by business model. So we need to be aware of the fact that we are not in perfect a local position. However, local matters. So that's why it's very important to borrow, steal, learn from international approaches, but also see how you would match up with, in your field, the best one available in the world. An international management team is very important even if you act only local. It's very important, and I assume international management team as having multiple different international backgrounds, different cultural backgrounds, different experiences. And it's important to have that, because otherwise you're going to remain Mexican. And Mexicans think a Mexican way. Dutch think a Dutch way. But you cannot hope to be successful in any meaning period of time if you don't take into account these views. Whether the people should always be within your management team, saying the CFO, the CEO should be having an international or different background, we can debate that. But certainly in your supervisory board or in your advisory board, I cannot imagine of any company, any serious company, even if it's local, that doesn't need its way of thinking and its inputs from the outside world. When companies think about international strategies and they try to raise their competitiveness, there's actually two things to say about it. Number one is they raise their competitiveness because they compare their product offer or service with the best. So if you want to sell flowers from Mexico to the US, it's probably a good idea to see how the Colombians are doing it, and it's certainly a good idea how the Dutch are doing it, because otherwise you will be substandard, for example. So that's on the market side, and the consumer and the customer side. The other thing is on the input side. We're here in Baja California. It has a world-renowned reputation for engineers, engineering quality. It also has a couple of other very good reputations. So you want to make sure that that's there. But it's partly because they're very good engineers, partly because they're relatively cheap in the international market. Now, of course, at some point you're going to run out of engineers, right? At some point you don't have enough engineers. Then the question is, where am I going to find the cheaper engineers who do the less engineering advanced work? Where are they, and can we sort of hook up? Let me give you an example again on the flowers. The Dutch found out that they became too expensive for certain types of roses. We were very good at the quality and things like that. But it would be much smarter to source them in Kenya and to start using Kenya to sell these roses than not. And that's actually good. We should not be so attached to what we have today. We should be thinking about what would be better at the market side and what would be better at our inputs. And that's the way how you can raise your firm if you improve your firm, you're going to improve the jobs, you're going to improve the incomes, you're going to improve the taxes, and you're actually going to have much more fun. The trends and challenges in the international economy is, we'll take an evening program to discuss. It looks like we're pulling it two ways at the moment. So there's one direction which is building upon what we already see before, where it was sort of this globalization. So you can see, it's easier to reach market, it's easier to use the internet, it's easier to have money and people transfer. And that's, let's say, on the positive development. There's also, I think rightfully so, pulling back the other way, saying, we need to protect who we are, we need to protect our country, it's going too fast. We're missing out on large parts of the population that are not served in their own lives by the fact that it's such a good thing to have international trade. And we see those two forces competing at the moment, and that's okay. As business people, we need to think about it, how we can deal with that. So that, I think, is the major trend. There is a rebalancing of how we've done that. So that's number one. Number two is that there is a new demand for businesses. So traditionally, businesses have been there to make a profit. And a lot of people think that they're only there to make a profit. And businesses sometimes think they're only there to make a profit. But we cannot hope to address the social issues in society if business is not taking up a much broader role, whether you call it shared value creation or anything else. And that goes beyond educating people, that goes beyond charity, that goes beyond doing good social causes. We've learned that the only real way that we can, at scale, improve lives of people, we need to incorporate the strength of business. That's not what CEOs or managers have learned traditionally. They left that to other people, but they more and more are there to help decrease poverty, decrease pollution, and help societies and areas to improve. And that's new, and that is a demand around the world, which is really, I think, a divide between generations of leaders and managers. You're right, it's a global perspective while acting local. And the core reason is quite simple. The core reason is the value is created, the money is made locally. It's you buying something locally. Whether it's on the internet or whether it's locally, there's a local transaction. So that's where it really happens. The thing is, we must understand globally how we bring in an offer or a service using the world in a positive way. We cannot ask the government to protect our business interests so that we may have a business, but actually we are not providing the high quality service to the people in our communities. So that's why we need to think global and local. So globally it's to make sure we use and contribute globally, and locally is because everything happens ultimately locally. That's basically why we need to have both. Either one of them, just one of the two, will oversimplify and will not do a service to any of us. The big advantage for CETIS and the students and the community and the firms that are here of having an international approach is paramount. Number one, I should congratulate CETIS with its incredible progress for the last couple of years. More students, better programs, and doing that. Traditionally, I know Baja California has had a very close international relationship, of course, with California. So you already know how to deal with the Americans, let me put it that way. There's more out there, and there's more opportunity to do that. So I think it's key that we train and establish with our future CEOs, future CFO, future general managers, future key policy makers that are now in the classroom, to establish in them a sense of it's local, think about your community, your people, your values and the things that you need to do. However, stretch everybody to be able to compete on a global scale, because then it will bring most wealth, most fun and most prosperity. And you need leadership and managers who can do that. And in this area, I don't know of any school that could do that better than CETIS. Final thoughts on my visit to CETIS. Number one is the people. That's why 5 or 6 years ago, some of my now friends convinced me to come here, and I'd never envisioned I would come every year. And you know, the ultimate is to meet the people, to enjoy your food, to enjoy the development and the feeling at least that I made some friends and that we can make a contribution. What most people find very strange when they talk with me is I love your fruits and your vegetables, and I'm surprised about the amount of meat you eat because I'm not eating a lot of meat. Specifically in Baja, you know, your fish of course is excellent. Having said that, I was, the first time I came here, absolutely amazed about some of the firms and the companies and the technological quality work that I've seen in automotive, that I've specifically seen in the aircraft industry. That was amazing, and of course everybody loves to be at Ensenada and do the wine cluster, but that's, you know, that's, we all need some sort of an excuse to be there, but that's really amazing. So I can imagine why a lot of people want to study here, work here, live here. For me it's 12 hours flight and 9 hours time difference, so I must be a little bit limited on being here, but with the internet we can be in touch every time we want. So I thank you very much for helping me get a little bit more of an understanding of how you work and live and basically how you progress.